Helen. Welcome to Mind Bloom.
Hello, thanks ever so much for inviting me.
Of course, all the way from Scotland. We were just talking about technology and its miracles. How amazing is this?
It is, isn't it? I think, technology has brought us together, and that's just absolutely fantastic.
Helen, I want to start by asking you what makes your mind bloom.
So, nature and wildlife. Both of those together, they make my mind bloom, and they also make my heart sing. I'm fortunate enough to live on the edge of the Cairngorms, which means in about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I can be deep within Glennon Doyle, and about 2 hours from there, I can be at the top of a Munro. I can be sitting amongst the heather moorlands. The grouse are chattering, and it's incredible. I live in an absolutely amazing part of the world, so that makes my mind bloom.
Yes, you do. Scotland is. I've never visited, only Ireland. I know it's not the same thing, but still, it's wow. Yeah. Wow, you're so lucky. In 20 minutes, I get to be in the concrete jungle that Manhattan is. Beautiful. So Helen, tell me more about Menopause Cafe. We met on Twitter. We immediately connected, and there was a spark there. We have so many things in common, this love of nature being one of them, and then just concerns for and goals in our lives to enlighten others in terms of mental health and in terms of talking about the full cycle of life, the full cycle in the life of women as well, if you will. So I'm so curious to know more and to let the people at home know more about what Menopause Cafe is.
Yeah, well, Menopause Cafe started as a social enterprise back in 2017, and it's the brainchild of Rachel Weisz. So I think it was June 2017, Rachel got together with 3 other people, Andrew Sandwell, Gail Jack, and Lorna Fotheringham. And they ran the world's first ever Menopause Cafe in Blend Coffee Lounge in Perth, Scotland. And the idea came from Rachel watching a documentary with Kirsty Walk, all about the menopause. And it dawned on Rachel that she was the right age for menopause. I think she was 50, 51, and yet she knew nothing about it. And with all other life stages, whether it's puberty or pregnancy, you have an awareness of it, or most women do. And so she thought, well, I need to do something about this. And Rachel had hosted death cafes, and so we use a similar format. And a Menopause Cafe it's a group-directed discussion. There's no agenda, there are no speakers. And in essence, they're pop-up events whereby anyone, men, women, young and old, can come together to talk about menopause. And so after Rachel held the first one in June 2017, people came forward and asked when the next one was going to be. She started to get inquiries from other parts of the UK and overseas. And it just took off from there. And a year later, we became a charity, and there have now been over 500 individual events. They've been held in Nairobi, Kenya, Copenhagen, Denmark, in Toronto. We hosted one about a fortnight ago, twinning Perth, Scotland, with Perth in Western Australia. Yeah. So it's just about getting people talking about menopause, so that, one of our mantras is forewarned is forearmed. It's unfortunate in this day and age, women are still moving into perimenopause and menopause with very little awareness of a lot of the symptoms, which can floor women.
And again, I have not attended. It's probably my bad. I want to say I'm still, I still have, I just want to enjoy whatever I have left of not being a part of that prestigious club or cafe.
We have all ages. I mean,
I
all
know.
ages come along. It's I mean, I think the youngest has been 18 and the oldest 84.
I know.
So it's age is not an exclusion or inclusion criteria.
It's interesting. The name is loaded. It sounds like the end of the road. I mean, it could be called the end of the road, and you wouldn't know the difference.
It's I don't know what it is about it. It's just loaded with negativity.
Do you pass menopause, or is that menopause? I mean,
well, we refer to it as a transition because menopause itself is just one day. It's the one day after you've not had a menstrual period for 12 months in the absence of hormonal contraception. So after which you're postmenopausal. And it's usually the 7 to 9 years leading up to the menopause, either perimenopause years, where women can find things particularly troublesome, and that's why we refer to it as a transition rather than and then a chop.
No, of course. Oh, see, I didn't know that. No, I'm one of those women who have never been told anything about menopause. I remember seeing my grandma having hot flashes, and she seemed very much uncomfortable and very much in distress. I didn't really understand why. I was maybe a teenager, or I don't remember. And I'm like, what? Why? I mean, why? Why is your face all red and flushed up? And what's really going on? And then I think she might have gone on HRTs, and those things stopped. But as well. So once you're post-menopause, does it get easier than perimenopause?
I mean, theoretically, yes. There's such a thing as a term that's postmenopausal zest. And I think that refers to, in essence, so you're postmenopausal, you're not encumbered by periods anymore. So you've not got, perhaps for some women, the horrendous bleeding and the pain. And I think you do have more time to focus on other things. And speaking from my own experience, I had a surgical menopause at 41. And that was 7 years ago. So I went, if you like, slap bang overnight into menopause. I would say now I am just starting to feel good.
Okay.
I'm starting to get my energy back. I'm starting to be able to concentrate more, probably because I've got my HRT sorted out. I feel as if I'm on top of my mental health issues, and I'm having more energy. I'm sleeping better. And of course, if you're sleeping, that just makes everything so much more bearable. So yes, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that's invariably what we say to women who come along and they're really struggling. And we hear it all the time. It does get better. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Yep.
Okay. So 7 years struggling, that is a long, long time. What was it like?
I mean, it was a long time, probably because the first 3 years, there was a bit of denial going on. I also have a black belt in avoidance. It never occurred to me, and this may sound ridiculous, it never occurred to me my issues were as a result of menopause. What I would say is I think the onus is also on the individual to inform themselves. I'm not for a second going to put the blame on, for example, the surgeon or the gynae, because the onus and responsibility is on me to find out. And a lot of women are far more vociferous sooner, and they do get the help sooner because they pursue help sooner rather than just leaving things and, oh no, it'll get better. Maybe that's where the mental health side of things don't really help.
I understand. In regards to breast cancer, we talk a lot about self-advocating.
Yep.
And becoming as informed as you possibly can, in advance of a double mastectomy or the medication you're supposed to take radiation, chemo, whatever it is, no one will know better than you how you're feeling.
Consider
and
women
what.
typically around about the age of menopause, the average age is 51. You're probably at a point in your life, you might be at the peak of your career, so you've probably got workplace stress. You might have children leaving home, so you've got empty nest, possibly aged parents who are having health issues. You've got this, it creates this perfect storm. And you add into that the uncertainty of perhaps you're having flooding, you're having heavy periods, or perhaps they're lighter, and you're having mood swings, rage. That's something that doesn't get spoken about very often. The just rage comes out of nowhere, and the mood swings. And you can just see how it makes a woman's life really quite challenging when she doesn't really know what's going on or how to get a handle on it. Now is the time that you really need to focus on yourself. So whether that's getting good quality sleep, a lot of us cut out alcohol because we find they make the hot flushes worse, and sleep, that it interferes with sleep. A lot of women cut out sugar, and perhaps also a lot go plant-based. So they really, they cut out meat. It seems to be a really good time to just recalibrate, I think, every aspect of your life, perhaps where you can just make tiny changes. And all those tiny changes just add up to make you feel a little bit better about yourself. And that, I think, the positive, it's a positive cycle, isn't it? A feedback rather than, spiraling downwards.
Right. Oh my God, it's actually a good thing. It's actually a gift because you're being given these tools, even if you're being a little bit forced into it. I can't escape the analogy with breast cancer or whatever cancer. You are kind of forced and put in this position that you have to assess and analyze what you have so far and who are the people that really matter around you. What are the tasks in your day? Is your job really fulfilling?
I also wonder whether, certainly in GB, women would just fade away into the background after menopause. They were still there, but perhaps they went to maybe they went to run sort of, I don't know, clubs within their local community. They almost became invisible, I think, which is quite sad, because there wasn't the support there, whether it's medical or whether it's just women getting together to provide the support from each other. That's sort of the camaraderie, the club type thing, similar to breast cancer. It's just, I think there's a sense of togetherness. And that was something that I took away when I went to the very first cafe. I left feeling more positive. I felt part of a community. And I think that's very important. It's also a connection. And at the moment with our lives, I think there's so much disconnection, and particularly with anything to do with menopause and menstruation and blood. I think there's so much shame wrapped up in it, which of course shame just drives disconnection. I think there's just something very basic about having people together talking in a space that's compassionate and non-judgmental. Certainly the feedback we get, the two most common feedback comments are, firstly, thank goodness I now know I'm not alone. And the second one is, thank goodness I now know I'm not mad or not going mad. And I think it's...
I want to say, shifting just a little bit, I want to say that, advocacy for menopause and for women who are experiencing all these changes is inevitably linked with feminism and with defense for women's bodies and choices and their lives and decisions. And because I was thinking, again, as you were speaking, that one of probably the main reasons why women were left to the background in their households and their families is after menopause, the incapacity of childbearing. And in a patriarchal society, that is probably the no. You have no use for us anymore. in a very dystopian sense, but it kind of is a reality.
Certainly, if you take the issues that we're having with HRT supplies at the moment, certainly it's a topic that comes up at the cafes, whereby people will say, well, if this were, for example, a heart medication, there is no way there would be, or it's hard to believe there would be such supply issues. Whereas, as I say, I don't know whether there are supply issues in the States, but in Great Britain, there has been significant issues with getting certain types of patches. And yeah, you just have to wonder whether it's because, I don't know whether it's because menopause has not been seen as a serious issue before. I wonder whether, because it's not a disease, it's not a disease, but it still affects 50 to 51% of the population. It can still be quite debilitating for perhaps 50% of those. And
it's similar to the shortage we felt here of Zoloft and other antidepressants after the pandemic hit. I mean, of course, I can imagine that people just rushed to their GPs to get prescriptions, but it could also just be because it's secondary. Your mental health is secondary, same as your menopause health.
It's true, and I think it's a very good analogy, because in the same way with certain antidepressants, I mean, venlafaxine, for example, you do not want to stop taking that cold turkey. And I think it's every woman's journey is so different, isn't it? And that's the thing with menopause. Everybody is just so subtly different. What works for one doesn't work for another, and it's really nuanced. And I think it just underlines how intricate and amazing the human body is, because you wouldn't have thought, given the number of people on the planet, that we could all have these subtly different transitions. It's amazing.
Are you saying I can't call you when I'm very menopause? Because I will.
You can call me anytime.
Thank you. And you as well. You know that.
Thank you.
All right, Helen, this was a pleasure, all the way from Brooklyn to Scotland. It was a pleasure speaking and getting to know you and hearing your story and the beautiful initiative that is Menopause Cafe. It was a pleasure to have you.
And thank you so much for helping us spread our message.